This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised. Hi, guys. Hello. So, this is not a mini crime episode. It's just a talking episode because I just had the coolest experience. Well, there's a couple things I want to talk about. Hold on, let me get my notes. Hold on one second. I guess I should have paused before I started this. Okay. I think I have them in my notes app on my phone. So I want to share a few things, but I really wanted to share. I just got off of a recording with Jim and Mike. I think I've talked about Mike, but maybe I haven't. Mike is like our absolutely brilliantly talented everything. He doesn't even like one title doesn't fit him because he edits the video, he makes social clips, he does everything and he's amazing. This is my work that I do with Jim Breuer. So Jim is doing this new thing. We're always trying to come up with new segments and just keep the show fresh and new. I said new so many times. But so one of them is that Jim was like, I want to start giving you guys movies that have been really meaningful or important to me. And then you guys watch them. And then we all get on the podcast and talk about them. So the first one that we did, which maybe I talked about, I'm not sure, was Captain Fantastic. And I had never seen that. I won't go back into that because I can't remember if I've talked about it. So I don't want to bore the people if I have. But I found it to be an amazing movie and I loved talking about it. So we did that. We recorded, we all watched it separately and then we got on the podcast and talked about it. I think that episode is out there somewhere. It is out there. And then the next film was a documentary called The Biggest Little Farm. I watched it 2 nights ago. I was putting off watching it because I watched the trailer and I cried in the trailer. Because for 2 reasons, honestly. One, sad animal stuff. It's a farm, so that's to be expected. And I could tell from the trailer, there's going to be sad animal stuff. And then also, which is weird, but because it's what I want, it's the life I want. It's exactly what I want to do. I want to wake up every morning. Now, look, in this documentary, they have a 200-acre farm. I mean, I would do that, but that's a bigger dream than even I imagined. But I have always dreamed of having, I know I've talked about it before, so I apologize, but dreamed of having some land and being able to grow my own food and being able to rescue animals. So it's a little bit different than the farm that they have. They have a farm where like they sell eggs and they sell all like the fruit and the vegetables so that they're growing in very large quantities. And it's a working farm. That's how they sustain the farm. They also do sell the pigs to people. I don't believe they don't butcher the pigs there, but they do sell the pigs to other places for food, which was something I asked him about. Oh, so I didn't get there yet. So we watched the film, and then today the 3 of us got on, and for about an hour we talked about the film and just what we thought and all of our thoughts and feelings about it. And I have 1,000 thoughts and feelings about it. And then I was able to get the filmmaker and John Chester. He made the film before he was a farmer. He was a filmmaker. I guess he's still a filmmaker. And so he made the documentary, but it's also his farm. Him and his wife start this farm. And so I cried so much through it because they like are living out my dream. They didn't have money to start the farm. He was a filmmaker in LA. She was a chef, and they raised money. They got investors. They made a business plan and got investors and raised enough money to buy this 200-acre farm in California, about an hour north of LA. It's called Apricot Lane Farms. And the story behind it. So let me finish one thought before I move on to the next. I'm trying to be better about that. So I cried, yes, because of the sad animal stuff, definitely. But because throughout this, I'm watching these people, I'm like, they're living, they're doing what I want to do. Why am I not doing this? And so it was like a combination of envy. No, I don't know what the right word is. It was a combination of emotions where I thought, this is so beautiful. It's so amazing. I don't know. It really, I couldn't help it. I just cried. It like really touched me deeply. Um, and so I was able to get John on the show with Jim to talk to Jim. And Jim was gracious enough and so kind to let me, they talked for a while and then he said, Margot, do you want to come on and ask him some questions? And I did. And then at one point I cried. I think I was just thanking him for letting me ask him questions and then also for sharing this story. I'm going to cry again. Guys, I'm not even getting my period. This just is so it's so special. It's such a special documentary. The way that this man talks about life and views nature and life and the cycle of life and death and it was and I'm talking about how he talked on the podcast with Jim. He does talk there is elements of that absolutely in the documentary, but then hearing that kind of him extend upon those ideas, um I'm not going to even try to repeat some of the things because I won't do it as well. So whenever this podcast comes out, I will share the link and I hope you guys will go watch it. I don't think I've ever told you or asked you to go watch, um, you know, like an episode of Daddy Issues or an episode with Jim, like, you know. But this, I feel like this was a really special episode and a very special documentary. It right now, I believe you do have to rent it on Amazon. It's like $3.99. Please go rent it, watch it, and tell me what you think. And tell me if you'd like to start a farm with me. Because the second it was over, I turned to Mark. I was like, should we like start a GoFundMe? Can we start a GoFundMe to make a farm slash animal rescue where animals come and live forever? It's their forever home. And then also we can make eggs. I don't know, like I don't know how we would sustain the farm because I'm not going to kill animals. I'm not going to raise animals to be killed. But I would sell eggs and I would grow food, my own food for myself. So I don't know how that would work, but I'm going to look into it because we talked about before the John from the documentary came on. We talked, myself and Jim and Mike talked about a million different things that this kind of film inspired us to think about. And one of them that I said was, Mark and I sometimes talk about this, like what is the purpose of what we're doing? Like, look, I love producing. I love podcasting. I love writing. Like, I love all the creative aspects of my job. And also, if someone said to me, here's a piece of land and here's enough money to sustain the land for 20 years, but you have to give up everything that you own. You have to give up all connections to social media, to television, to everything. Like, no, none of it. Done. That wasn't a good snap, but I just snapped for emphasis. Done in a second. I wouldn't even think twice about it at all. I mean, need to bring my dogs and cat and Mark. But other than that, if I couldn't bring anything else with me, that was it for sure. Done. But so we talked about like, but I like my work. I loved being a teacher. I loved that too. That felt at least like I was maybe changing, I was making an impact. So I felt like there's a little more purpose to it. My job now, while I do enjoy it, I like anybody, I'm not special. Anybody could do this. Anybody could sit in front of a microphone and tell true crime stories, and fucking half the population does. Um, Anybody could produce a podcast. So, often the idea is that we're working to have money, to buy nice things, to travel, and then to ultimately retire so we don't have to work. And this is nothing like I'm not trying to say that this thought is anything profound. I know that people think about this and this is a common thing to think about and talk about, but why? Like why am I don't want to retire at 65 and do what? Play cards all day? No. I just want my life to be simple and to have a purpose and to feel like I'm connecting to life. And he said something. He said, as humans, we're seeking to understand meaning, like the meaning in life, to find the meaning in things, like why are we here? And something that the farming has helped him do is feel connected to life itself because it's happening all around him. The soil's alive, the trees, the crops, the animals. And then he said something else. He said, in the face of struggle, nature doesn't focus on regret. Nature focuses on the solution. And he gave the example. He said, if a coyote loses a leg and he only has three legs, then the coyote's not sitting there thinking, oh, poor me, I lost a leg. Oh, I feel bad for, not, I regret losing a leg. I wish I hadn't done that. What if I had made a different choice? He's not thinking any of that. The coyote is thinking, okay, how do I exist with three legs? This is where I'm at. How do I move forward? And he was saying that like that's what nature does. That's what the farm does. Nature's always looking for a solution. It's not looking back. He said so many beautiful things. I won't quote anymore. Those were two of the great things. Um, Excuse me. It was it was very moving, obviously. I don't think I've ever gotten off of one podcast to jump on here and do another one and talk about it. But if I had any question, if this was something that I would like to do, I have no question anymore. And Mark had said, so when I turned to him and I said, should we start a GoFundMe so that we can start like an animal sanctuary slash farm? Sustainable farm is one of the more important things. So the great thing about this documentary, sorry, I know I'm jumping around, is that when they started this farm, they wanted it to be a sustainable farm where they're not using any pesticides. They're not killing things just to kill them. So like you see, they have a snail problem. And I mean a snail problem. Tree trunks, it looks like it's just a tree trunk, but it's not. It's covered in snails. But they're not going to they don't want to spray the snails. They don't want to do anything like that because then that affects the crops and this and this. So they wanted to come up with a natural solution. Well, what they figured out was ducks, and they have a lot of ducks because they have a pond that they made with catfish in it. Ducks love snails. So they let all the ducks loose in these crops with all the snails, and they ate all the snails. They had a mole problem. The moles were eating the roots of their trees, and the trees were dying, which is a huge issue. And so they built um, like owl homes, like these little like bird houses for owls, and they put them all over in the trees and on the barns and everything. And the owls came, and the owls ate the moles, and they ate like 50,000 moles or something like that. I might be making that number up. I may be exaggerating, but and so they found like nature like finds its own solutions. And something I wrote down about the film that I thought, um, where is it? Where is it? Sorry, guys. I have a lot of notes here. Something about like, I can't find it in my notes right now. Oh, well, that they never stopped adapting, and nature too never stops adapting. And if you kind of just like give up a little bit of control, that nature will solve its own problems. And that could be, a trip that we could put some of that. I know that, look, if I don't pay my electric bill and my electricity gets shut off, the problem isn't going to solve itself. So I'm not at all trying to say that. But sometimes trusting the process is good. Um, and that the the land, when they buy the land, it's dead. It hasn't been a farm for a long time, and it just looks dry and barren. 200 acres of just like dry dirt. And I was like, I can't, like, how are they going to change this? And then you see over years. I mean, the film, the documentary goes over the course of, I want to say, 7 years. Um, yeah, at least 7 years, and they completely transform it. And it's like a really, not to get all cheesy on you here, but a really interesting metaphor for life, that growth takes time and patience and struggle, but the end result is worth it. And that is exactly what happened on this farm. And so now that I've given away half of the documentary, I'm just kidding. Even everything I told you, it's phenomenal. Now, if you're an animal lover like I am, there are parts that I had to close my eyes and earmuffs it because I couldn't hear. I didn't want to hear or see a handful of parts. Uh, Mark watched it with me. He's my eyes and ears when there's that type of stuff. So he filled me in and then told me when I could like open my eyes. Um, oh, the dogs are inside. I thought I heard them whining outside. It was incredible, but beware that you might, if you're an animal person, there are some parts you might need to fast forward through, just briefly. I urge you to go watch it. And like I said, if you'd like to come start a farm with myself and Mark, that is my life goal. Did I ever finish that conversation? Like, what are we working towards? I did finish that conversation. Apparently, there's something called a farm loan. That's what Mike was telling me. So I'm going to look into that. And then I also think I would have no shame. So after we found out that Henry has cancer and the heart tumor and all that, Mark was like, "Well, do you think you should start a GoFundMe? Do you think like listeners of the podcast might donate?" And I was like, "I'm sure they would, but I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to, and it's not a pride thing. It's not an ego thing. I have no problem. I talk about how I'm broke all the time. You want to send me money? Send me money. I'll take it. No problem. But I don't know, a prompted, can you help me pay for, like, look, if it was me, I don't know if I would. Now I'm getting all tripped up in here. I'm getting in my head. I don't know. It didn't feel right. It just didn't feel, I didn't want to put that on other people. And and in the end we decided we're not gonna, you know, do any treatment. And isn't it strange? I mean, that was last August, maybe, that we found out about this, and we took him up to the cardiologist, and then I took him to an oncologist here in Tucson, and she was like, you have to here are your options. There are $8,000 billion, and you have to start treatment immediately, or his life will be very short. And here we are in March. Was it this past August? Yeah, it was August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So we're 8 months, no treatment, still going on walks every morning and every night. Knocked on wood there. And if he died tomorrow, I would feel good about that the last 8 months of his life have not been painful, he's not been sick. We haven't spent every day in the vet getting radiation. So I don't know where that was going, but there we are. But oh, the but would I start a GoFundMe to start a farm? Yes. And I don't know why, because maybe because it's a bigger picture thing. Henry is my dog. Why should anyone else have to pay for his treatment if we were going to do treatment? But starting a farm like that, it's not just about me or Mark. It's about saving as many animals as I can. It's about, I would love to have to offer that was the cat. Have you heard that? I would love to offer to have like field trips, like classes of kids from schools come to learn about the animals and get comfortable being around animals and learn about gardening and farming and things like that. I realize that you can't make money doing that, but that would be the dream. So it's less about me personally. Yes, that would be my dream life, but it's also bigger than that. So I might start a GoFundMe. I feel like you'd really need a crap load of money though. I feel like how they did it in Biggest Little Farm with going and getting investors is what you really have to do because you need some people with some deep pockets. And I don't know. We'll see. I feel like it's worth investigating. So, okay, let's see. Other things I had on my list. Oh, so this one is going to be not for everyone, but it's weird. I don't think I've heard from anyone that anyone is taking any of these weight loss medications. I feel like half the world is taking them, but I haven't heard from one listener that they are. And so maybe I just have the most elite, fit, comfortable, confident listeners in the world, and nobody needs to take it. And that's great. I'm very happy about that. But if you are and you're open to sharing, I would love to hear from you because this has been a journey for me. Um, And so I don't know how much people know about it. I've explained all of this to Mark a bunch, and I think he wants to never hear about any of this again. But, I did talk about on the podcast how back in June, I think, or July, maybe, I, well, I know that I talked about before we went to Belize. So now we're talking over a year ago, like a year and a half ago. I was really trying to lose weight. I'm always trying to lose weight until I actually lose it, which has been a really hard process over the past 2 years. Since hitting 40, I feel like my body has said, no, nope, we're not going. It doesn't matter how little you eat, how much you eat, how healthy, how much you work out, doesn't matter. Nothing's going to change. This is how you look for the rest of your life. And I was not comfortable with that. So I got compounded semaglutide, which is the ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy from himsandhers.com because I was already getting an antidepressant from them. And it was a really simple, easy process and somewhat affordable. I don't have health insurance, so that, it's a good option. And and so once they started offering semaglutide, compounded semaglutide, so it's not the name brand, but it's the main ingredient. I'm not trying to like mansplain to anyone. I just don't know how much people know about this stuff or not. So I started taking it back in June, and it did help me lose about 25 pounds, 30 pounds, slowly, very slowly. But yeah, because by January, I had lost about 25 pounds. So that's a while. June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. It's 7 months. It was a little slow. I could have dealt with the slow weight loss, except for then it stopped. And I also want to say, I remember when Ozempic came out, thinking like, oh, it's cheating. Like that's so unfair. If you can afford it, then you can be skinny and you don't even have to do anything. You just eat Snickers bars all day. No, that is not the case. Now, I don't know about the name brand. I took name brand Wegovy back when I was at Cavalry for like a hot second because I had insurance. It made me very sick. So I was hesitant to try the semaglutide again, same ingredient. I did because I was like, I don't want to live like this. And I don't have health insurance. So being overweight is a health concern and triggers a bunch of other health concerns. So without health insurance, I need to keep myself as healthy as possible. So I went on it, lost some weight, mildly nauseous pretty much the whole time. Nothing that kept me, I wasn't like on the couch all day. Maybe the day I took my shot, I was. But then I was fine, but just like mildly nauseous. Didn't want to drink. I still had an appetite, so I still ate, but I just didn't feel good. And I was tired a lot. But I was losing weight. So I'm going to deal with it until I wasn't losing weight. And then I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? Because for some people, it only works to a certain degree. And so I went to see my doctor, and she said, yeah, it might have stopped work. Like you've lost 25 pounds, 30 pounds. It's really only designed to help people lose that much weight, which I don't totally understand. I still have plenty of more weight to lose. Why would it suddenly? I don't get it, but fine. So I asked about the other drug that's like this called compounded terzepatide. So that is, if you've seen commercials for Zepbound or Monjorno. So it's essentially the same thing, but it works on another receptor in your body that Ozempic doesn't. My friend in Phoenix is taking it, and she's liked it. Of course, it's a little more expensive because it's supposed to work better. So she said, "Yeah, I'll write you a prescription for 1 month. And I'll send it to the compounding pharmacy here. They'll call you to pay." And they did $625 for the month. I was like, I can't. I can't. I can't do that. So I took to Reddit. Is that a saying? I got on Reddit, which is not something that had ever done before. But I needed opinions. Like, should I pay this? And there's, a subreddit, compounded terzepatide and whatnot. The wealth of information. I think I either talked about this on a private episode for Patreon or on the last bonus where I talked about Flagstaff. The amount of information, so I'm sorry to repeat myself, but the amount of information in there was spectacular. It helped me so much. I learned that as of the 19th, which is today, compounded terzepatide and compounded semaglutide would note, I think semaglutide, but definitely terzepatide. So definitely the better one that I was just starting to take. I mean, this was a couple weeks ago, is going to no longer be available because Eli Lilly, the manufacturer of Zepbound, the name brand version, there's no shortage anymore. There was apparently a shortage with the one-use needle pens. And so when there's a shortage of a drug, compounding pharmacies are allowed to manufacture essentially the same drug, but not name brand. And when that shortage is over, those compounding pharmacies are now not allowed to because Eli Lilly wants all the money. They're already making, I want to say, billions off of these weight loss drugs. But that's not enough. They can't let anyone else who maybe can't afford or doesn't have insurance, now no one can get it. You have to go through Eli Lilly to get it as of today. So like 2 weeks ago, I'm researching this, learning. So through Reddit, I learned, no, don't get it. Don't pay $600 for the month. Go to this telehealth company or this telehealth company. So I used a telehealth company called Brello. Doesn't matter anymore because now this is not available. But I was able to get 3 months for $500. That's a deal. Great. I started taking it. I expected to feel sick like I did with semaglutide. I did not. I felt great. I had more energy the day that I took the shot than I have in months. I was not nauseous. I felt fantastic. And I lost weight last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever. The first week I lost weight right away. I was like, okay, if this is really not going to be available anymore after March 19th, what am I going to do? I can't afford to get it from the manufacturer. So back to Reddit I go. And people are basically like, you got to stock up. You got to go to now a different telehealth place, which is not going to be as cheap because Brello is the cheapest, but you got to stock up. And I was like, well, I don't have any more money, so I can't. But I'm unwilling to only have 3 months of this and no more because in a week it's working. And I know that may sound silly to some people, but if you have struggled with your weight, with being overweight for a lot of your life, for most of your life, and you are doing everything right, exercising, eating right, not drinking, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, all the fucking things, and nothing is changing. I understand like acceptance and I should accept my body the way it is. And I know all that. I went to an eating disorder rehab back when I was 19. Like I'm clear on all of the things. And I was doing all of the things and I was being patient and nothing was happening. It is excruciatingly frustrating and disheartening. And so then finding something that actually does work and I don't feel sick on it, I would have ripped a kidney out and sold it if I needed to. Luckily, Mark let me, I took a loan from him and I went to another compounding telehealth company online and got 3 more months supply. It was double the cost. Excuse me. But now I have, if I take a low dose, I have, I don't know, enough for maybe 9 months, 10 months. I don't know what happens after that, but that's the most I could do. I actually was interviewed by somebody at NPR Fresh Air. All things considered. It played yesterday, and I think an article comes out today. It's just brief snippets from this interview. She interviewed me um, because I was in the Reddit group, and she asked if anybody would be willing to give an interview about this whole entire process and how we feel about the fact that this stuff won't be available anymore. And so I did, and I feel angry about it. I think it's so fucked up. And I'm not going to get into a whole conversation about how like the healthcare industry is keeping us sick and overcharging and blah blah blah. I think like we're all pretty clear on that. Whether you agree or disagree, it's undeniable that the health the healthcare industry is making a killing and bleeding people dry who are trying to get or stay healthy. So that's what I talked about with her. And yeah, and that's how I feel. I feel like it's just incredibly fucked up. These drugs are life changing for people. I mean, look, I have weight to lose. I had and have to lose to be healthier. Of course, there's a vanity aspect to it. I would be lying if I said it had nothing to do with me looking in the mirror. Of course, it does. It also has to do with that my blood pressure goes lower. My risk of heart disease and heart problems goes much lower. It's easier on my joints, my knees, my back to lose weight and to be healthier. My asthma gets better. Like there's a million reasons. And there are people who are even have more health problems from being overweight, who are far more overweight. And these drugs are changing their lives. And Eli Lilly is literally making it as difficult as possible for people to obtain these life-saving, in some cases, life-saving drugs. And if you really get into researching how much it costs them to make these drugs versus what they're charging, it's disgusting. And you know what? Fine. Be the name brand, charge that for people with insurance, people who can afford it, awesome. But also allow for other options for people who can't. And now they've completely eliminated those. So a lot of these telehealth places, if you go to their website, they're not even offering these drugs anymore because they can't, because it's not allowed. because a judge passed some ruling that compounding pharmacies now cannot produce these drugs. So I'm hoping by the time I run out, perhaps there will be more options, but who knows? There's a lot more I could say on that, but I feel like I probably already bored a lot of you already, so I won't. If there are any of you who are taking this, have taken it, dealing with it, curious about it, want to share anything with me, I'd love to hear from you. But I guess I will leave that at that. Really went like from this amazing, inspirational, incredible documentary that I watched into talking about weight loss medication and the healthcare industry. So, whew. Do you guys check Instagram first thing in the morning when you wake up, or Facebook or TikTok or whatever your social media app of choice is? Like, is that something that people do? Because I was talking to a friend the other day and she said, I feel like you're good at not, at like disconnecting when you need to, which is generally on the weekends. I don't answer texts. I don't check email. Like I completely disconnect. But even during the week, I mean, I post for Jim and I'll sometimes post on Death by Southwest, but I don't scroll. I used to, but I don't scroll. It is not like, it's not something that I check first thing in the morning or really at all. Like, check what? I guess is what I'm wondering. And that sounded extremely judgmental. So I apologize. I don't mean it to be. It's more confusion. Like, what am I checking? That like somebody that people liked a photo I posted? Or am I checking like is it the way that you get your news by checking Instagram? Or is it that you like to see what your friends and family perhaps are doing and they post a lot? Because I don't like my small amount of friends and family are not, well, I guess that's not true. I guess Jackie posts on Facebook. I don't know. I kind of feel like if you have something to show me, you can text me a picture because that's what I do. I don't post really. Sometimes I do. I posted for my mom the other, whenever her death anniversary. So sometimes, but I don't know. And I don't know why, because I used to spend a lot of time on TikTok, a lot. When I was in Atlanta, that I wouldn't fall asleep with the TV on. I'd fall asleep like scrolling TikTok. So I don't know what changed, but I don't do it now. And I'm wondering, I don't know, I'm kind of, it's kind of a personal reason. I'm wondering why and what for people who do, like why do you? I guess that's my question. I started listening today to the Mel Robbins podcast episode, Let Them. I mean, this is, hey, if you don't use social media, then you might not know what I'm talking about. If you do use social media, you probably know what I'm talking about because what, she has a book. Is it a book? I think it's a book called Let Them, The Let Them Theory, which is exactly what it sounds like. If you really want to work in the garden, but your partner wants to go to Home Depot, let them. If your friend is, and this one did resonate with me, if your friend is dating or married to losers or someone who's not good for them, and you've told that, you've had that conversation with them and they've talked to you, but let them. You're not going to convince them to leave. And so I appreciate the concept. I think it's very simple, which is great because that means it's accessible for most people. Um, it can be applied to just about anything. But I think there is also a fine line between let them and I did not listen to the whole podcast. So it's a book, but she has on her podcast, she has an episode about this theory. And I didn't listen to the whole thing, so maybe she does address this, but I would imagine, just from the little bit I listened to, that there's a fine line between let them and being a doormat or being complacent. Because if you apply that to like, I mean, maybe it does, my friend's an alcoholic and I've been trying to get them to stop drinking. Well, let them drink. I mean, yeah, I guess so. I guess you can't really get somebody to stop drinking. Um, but I don't know. There's something there like my, I understand not taking on the burden of trying to change other people, change their actions, change who they are, change what they're going to do. I get that. I struggle with sometimes you can't let them. Sometimes you have to address something. So I don't know. Maybe I need to finish listening to it, but very popular. So if you haven't heard of it, look it up because it is honestly. This is going to sound like a bitchy thing to say. I was kind of like, why do I have to listen to a whole podcast or read a whole book about it? It's pretty straightforward. Like, let them. Okay, cool. So maybe I guess I need to finish listening to it before I judge it. So I will do that. What else? What else? What else? Uh, I think that we'll call it good. I don't want to clutter this up. Yeah. Okay. Well, then that's all I got today. That's my recommendation is The Biggest Little Farm. It's on Amazon or Apple TV. You have to pay for it. It's worth the $3.99. It's really incredible. Do you want to come start a farm with me? And that's it. I have some TV recommendations and stuff, but I feel like that's a different episode to do that in. So I love you guys. Thanks for listening. I really wanted to put music in yesterday's episode. It was too late. I just couldn't do it. So if you like the music when it's in there, I'm sorry. I am going to try to continue doing that. Last night just wasn't happening. And that's it. Email me, text me, tell me what's up with you guys. Tell me anything interesting. I love your TV recommendations, your book recommendations, product recommendations. Any of the ladies that are listening that are around my age, if there is something that you use, whether it be like a lotion or a serum or a makeup item that you find really works well. Wow, that was weird because the blur behind me, my hand looks, whoa, why is it only doing this side? um, please tell me. I'm always, and if it's affordable, please tell me. Okay, that's it. I'm out of here. I will. There is a mini crime episode, but remember, I'm going to keep you guessing. I'm not going to tell you when. So you're just surprised. That's my commitment issue right there. Okay. Love you guys and goodbye.
Death by Southwest is hosted by Jenna Schneider and Margot Carmichael.
Executive produced by Margot Carmichael.
Produced by Jenna Schneider.
Audio editing and sound design by Margot Carmichael.
Music by Soundstripe.
And a special thanks to Edward R. Murrow for letting us borrow his famous sign-off phrase, good night and good luck.